Peace, y'all. Welcome back to another chit chat. I tried to record one the other day. I think it was, what day was that? A few days ago. I went to see Avatar, the movie, and I came back to talk about that, and I did put it on tape, but something was really wrong with the sound, so I wasn't able to upload it. So I'm going to attempt to talk a little bit about that and some other things that I want to just touch on briefly. Hope everybody's been well. It's the day after the winter solstice. So you guys are probably feeling another shift. There's been a lot of activity, actually. A lot of activity that has accelerated several of the timelines that we're on. But a lot of people just feel it. And, you know, I had to remind people it's just a part of also the winter solstice. We have a Mercury retrograde coming up for the astrological contribution to the whole matrix experience. And there's just so much. I don't even know where to start. Let's see. Maybe I can get that other sound on video later. But anyway, as usual, I want to make this as brief as possible. I'm just going to try to focus on a few things that have really caught my attention lately. The things I want to touch on are alchemy has been a big, I wanted to kind of just throw out some words. I want to do things a little different than I normally do them in the way that most people do this. I'm looking to participate in this portal in a way that we sort of open things and have a new way, a new template to open the energy for this new template to bring information in. I've had conversations lately. Oh my God, I wish you guys could see what I'm seeing right now. Further confirmation, I'm looking at this. What do you call this? It's on my screensaver, and fractal, but it's a fractal. Can I turn the camera around? It's a fractal of, fractal images are like, they're portals, and this one is definitely a portal. So it's a whole bunch of squares that continually move into a depth of fractal dimension. I count at least 5. And then on the periphery, there's a lot of interesting sort of gray, white, misty matter. It kind of reminds me of the Torii gates in Kyoto, Japan that I visited back in 2018. Speaking of which, we did a little Boken work today spontaneously, as well as watched a most amazing sunset with completely choppy clouds that drew several different colors throughout the sky. The rainbow has been another symbol. Not that LGBTLQ, whatever. Again, no diss on you, hermaphroditic. What's the word? Hyperboreans. I did a video on that. Probably whenever these videos get out, it'll probably be a really unpopular one for the average human. But anyway, one thing that I've been excited about has been a topic that I've been talking about for years. If you knew me on, which very few of you, well, you never know when these begin to be watched. For anyone who knew me on the platforms of Facebook and even MySpace, under several different names, going back decades actually, Zia Vortex, Ziamat, and others. There were things that I talked about that had to do with, because as a mythologist and an oracle, and also a student of history, genetics was something that I always talked about, but very scantily, because of the politics around it. But for decades now, and even before then, when I was a teenager, actually, studying and following the great scholars who many of us were, you know, students of, you could say, the many scholars that are talked about now, who many of us, you know, we saw in the flesh. So, you know, there were different lenses, different perspectives and angles that this conversation of genetics and its bullied young sibling race, the construct, has been talked about. Before I get there, I know I'm gonna, you know, that's how I am. I'm an oracle, feminine aspect. So we don't have to go in a linear line, you know, and we're not worried anymore about those who can't follow us, because again, we're creating a new methodology of having these conversations, of bringing back the memories, because that's what they are. They're genetic memories, cellular memories. So how we, you know, dive into remembering is not going to just be a conversation that has, again, a mental and intellectual linear movement. So we jump all around, and if it doesn't make sense, good. It goes into the nonsensical part of you, which is your intuitive and spirit. And again, this is the oracle way, that masculine, overly mentalized way of retrieving our wisdom and knowledge from our ancestors, who also happen to be us, is not a limitation anymore. So I was going to jump around. And sometimes I'll, not get all the way there, but so let me go back into the conversation of genetics. I actually was listening to a lecture, and there are not too many people out there who I've been impressed with recently. Well, there have been, but I'm really, really impressed with one brother, and I'll mention his name at another time so as not to distract from the message. If you know him, you'll recognize some of the things I say as things he's been talking about lately. And I've been very grateful to the Most High, because often I'm just, bored out of my mind trying to find somebody who's really talking about anything. We get certain things downloaded, whether it's through traveling to distant lands, which I've done a lot of, and inshallah we'll do more of soon. And the oracle way, the shamanistic way, is we walk the lands, and as we walk the lands, we pick up energy from the grids beyond the crystals. The crystals come from the earth. They're tools, but by all means, they're not some gimmicky little trick that we use. That's the other thing, the whole quote unquote magic arts that have been overused and abused lately, with a whole generation growing up on Harry Potter and a lot of other vampire stories, and have just been programmed, unfortunately. The millennials and the crystals and magentas and indigos before them, of which I all have anchored into, as well as the new generation of, I don't know if we've given them a name yet, from a aura color perspective. I think they have. What are they calling them now? Diamonds or something? I can't remember. But anyway, as we just move through the solstice on the 22nd day of December here, traditionally you've had the ritualization of harvesting energy and using it for magical purposes. And in channeling the Great Mother, I know that she has been beyond disgusted with the use of magic. And again, with the color contexts, we refer to the polarities as light magic and dark magic. And what we've called dark magic has been the magic that people use and justify out of victimization, out of their perceived experience of victimization, which they feel gives them the right to take these arts that have been taught and that have sprung forth from the memory of our ancestors, and have used them for survival methods in these recent incarnations of the last several hundred years, actually. But the immature souls that have been using them currently have taken them and used them according to their egos to not only survive, but to impose their dark, twisted will, not on those who've oppressed them merely, which wouldn't be so disgusting and deplorable, or would be, let's say it would be more understandable, but instead have used this energy to impose their will upon and against peaceful people, chosen ones. And those are merely those ones who have opened their hearts and have dedicated themselves to serving oneness and love and peace and harmony and healing and ascension for all sentient life beyond humanity. And yet these, I call them children, and some of them literally are. These broken beings and spirits, but they're not innocent, because everything has a purpose of origin, and everyone gets a choice in the moment. And it's very apparent and clear. It's not a confused choice. It might be a little confusing, but there's at some point the opportunity to hear a voice that makes it clear, right? What is the right and wrong thing to do? And there is a right and wrong, folks. You know, I was the biggest relativist, especially moral relativism in my earlier days. Understanding that before there was quantum theory as a mainstream offering, it was an elite, very not very well understood theory even by those who were into science. But, you know, I understood that truth was subjective overall. The objectivity that does exist within the relativism is an agreed reality and construct based on what the one consciousness that connects us all has decided as an agreed reality for the betterment of the one. So in other words, the populism that we've all agreed at the deepest core and level of our spiritual being, that democracy is based on, what we've agreed to collectively is what we create as an objective truth or reality. But there is no such thing outside of the context, the contextual relativism There is no good or bad. It's only relative to the context that we have agreed to as a collective, as a body of one, which includes the creator and the ancestors and the higher level beings that are our guides. And that's why there's always been teachings of a middle path. Not far left, not far right. And we understand the imbalance of those extremes, right? But anyway, back to the point, which was that these very immature and annoying, on my part, ignorant souls that have been confused and lost their way have taken it upon themselves to use what we call dark magic to harvest energy, to impose their will, again, their very immature will of possessing things externally that they're using to mirror and to compensate for a lack of, for an insecurity of internal power. And I talk about this a lot, but in the past, but to get back on the topic, that was a sidebar because they like to use this, solstice and equinox. And I said solstice before, but equinox and solstice portal to harness more energy and power that comes from the natural cycle of our time, our natural continuum of time that we're collectively a part of. But things are very loose now, right? Because we have moved beyond those constructs of time that we were subject to from the past during this particular equinox or procession of the equinoxes. We've got so much going on. We've got, I just really don't like to use a lot of words because it's different names in different cultures, but let's go with one narrative of the Anunnaki or the creator gods or our parent, race that has manipulated humanity. I've said it for many years. We're genetically modified beings. And that seems to be a narrative that a lot of people are talking about now lately. And you have some groups of people who don't like them at all. And I've been in every category because of my shape-shifting DNA. And so there's some groups that don't like them at all, that have become very angry at him. You had the whole movement in had the whole movement in the 60s of God is dead, or even before that, because, it was thought that the gods had abandoned humanity, right? You got the creator gods, you got the earthbound, quote unquote gods, ancestors, angelics, fallen angelics, guardian angelics, whole can of worms, right? But again, the point is that there are conversations that have been sort of danced around because we've had to wait to accrue knowledge in these, these steps, these integral steps. But now we're at that time, and as revealed to us through Mayan legend, that there is no more time. There is no more separation. Like, there's just a big Pandora box of everything all at once being opened to those who are able to hold, all of it without the barriers of time, space. Hence, we used to say back in the day with the Kundalini risings that, people could become very unbalanced mentally and have psychotic episodes and, lose their minds. And not be able to function in the construct, the collective construct. It's happening all the time, and for other reasons. And so it's occurring now, but we have more context for no context. So, each generation gets easier and harder at the same time, right? So, just a word again. Did I mention it in the last video? Probably in the video that didn't get posted. But, to all of you people who are using, because I talk all the time about, they'll say it more soon coming up and around here. And forget that I said it. My ego. But, it's really service to self versus service to all. That's the real good and evil. If all you're about is yourself, in the worst way, we're not talking about in the elementary way of love. Obviously, you have to love yourself first. But when that primary, innocent self-love twists itself and distorts itself into a narcissism, a Luciferian narcissism, that is when we begin to decline from the innate goodness that we're all born with, that comes from the core of our soul. And so you can catch yourself. It's really very simple. You can catch yourself whenever you find yourself with a focus, an over focus on yourself over the whole. Excuse me. Yep, it's that simple. All these conversations, all these long ass YouTube videos from everybody, over analyzing, over conversing, these books with all these overly worded, sophisticated conversations. It's real simple, honey. Service to self versus service to others. With all of the mysteries, all of the secrets, all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom, all of the esoteric knowledge, it don't matter. What you gonna do with it? If the heavens opened up and poured out all of the secrets that you very nice people, you children of the Most High, have been seeking to gain. Because many of you have a lot of it. But what the heck have you done with it? You don't even deserve it. You don't deserve the knowledge. You don't deserve the wisdom. You don't deserve the mysteries and the secrets, because all you do with it is serve your dark and immature, narcissistic selves. So anyway, that was actually a tangent. One of the conversations I've been wanting to have for a while, again, is centered around genetics and history. And it's also centered around polarities in the form of the sexes, male, female, both within and without. These are very controversial topics, which is why I haven't been really interested in having open conversations, because again, I've been on this stuff for a long time, but even trying to get them in within our, woke conversations, our last 25 years, even prior to that, has just been a headache. Again, the genetic conversation hurts a lot of people's feelings. The sex conversations hurt a lot of people's feelings and egos. So, we sort of have had to dance around them, the conversations. But the genetic conversations can be breached and talked about it in terms historically of Moorish people. And when I say Moorish people, I'm not talking about political factions and cults of people who want to claim power and authority and superiority. That's where we've gotten this other mess from. It all had to come from somewhere. When the kids are acting a fool, you can blame the kids all you want, but you know where to really look in order to find who's at fault. If you say you're the supreme rulers, then how did this mess, who's the person that the buck gets passed to ultimately as a claim of responsibility for all that's here, all the mess that's been created? Whose responsibility is it? If you have the ultimate power, then whose responsibility is it that the mess has occurred? Because you've raised, grown, created whoever the ops are, because you're supreme, right? Where the ops come from if not from you? And what was your slip up? Why don't we focus on that? And so I'm talking to everybody's my folks. But, there's a lot to uncover if you want to do it the tedious way, which is go through each little portal of history and judge it, which we've been doing for a very long time. The ancestors have been doing it abroad, beyond these dimensional realms, as well as here. When we discuss it here, it's quite boring because you deal with so many egos and personalities that want to, again, claim power, rights to power and rulership, power, ego, again, right to rulership. And we're talking about lineages and genetics as well as sexes. Because we can't have a true conversation without dealing with, and they're both coming up now. That's why I'm breaching the conversation. Haven't gotten into it yet. Another video. But I feel good now about talking about it because I see other people now. Because we're ready. We've made those, when you're dealing with this version of humanity, you got to go in increments, if you arrive all at once or too fast and you try to talk to the population about it, you will be outcast. Even still, you will be outcast because, it goes like this. You got to get here before you get there. When we make giant leaps, it does happen occasionally. And when that happens, it's really a turn up for those like me. But when it happens, you get like a huge, faded leap in humanity's thinking or consciousness. And it comes from, these events that happen at the right time, under the right context and situations. And then, we make this huge leap. And then you can now, talk about things that were just not even in the realm of understanding. And so the Aquarian age is good for that. It's good for giving us that context. But Moors, race, genetics, colorism, creationism, these are talks that are beginning, and again, these aren't new. It's just, it's been very, these have been very elite conversations in the past, or esoteric conversations, only intended for a few who understood things that are outside of the realm of, normality and mainstream. Again, genetics and sex politics, meaning masculine versus feminine. Not just versus, but, how that whole structure evolved and, from where and how and, where it went awry. So these conversations are conversations that are starting to be talked about again with the next level of consciousness. And I'm digging it. I've talked about this stuff a lot and gotten, the crazy label. And I've survived that crazy label with an amount of, being dipped in some intentionalized normality programs to keep me kind of, from flying off totally flying off the deep end. Many of us have had to anchor ourselves in certain, what we would consider almost folly, just to keep the frequency balanced and to remain in this frequency, or else we would probably be gone by now in a number of ways for a number of reasons. But yeah, Moorish history, what I loosely will call Moorish history, which again, Moors not just being, one group of people that can be traced. It's actually, as I've said for a very long time, an admixture. I haven't heard anybody talk about that yet, but you know. Hopefully they will. They'll piece that together. It's an admixture. Because lineages and you know, and again, everything that exists on the physical first happens in the ethereal. So, you know, these ways of creating lineages and groups of people or like tribes, you know, it's already been done. It's just being recreated, and it's recreated again. You're dealing with spiritual bloodlines, you know, again, ethereally and physically. And so the admixtures are what matters, because they're what are they're where you have an opportunity for a bloodline or a lineage to recreate or to rebirth itself, reincarnate. There are literal lineages, you know, and those are preserved often as well, but they're not, it's not exclusive to the actual physical DNA lineage. It's the admixture. And that, in an odd way, that still is the actual physical genetic lineage. But it can be disjointed, you know, over decades and centuries and millennia plus and more. So those conversations, though, are very interesting to me, always have been, because they do correlate with history. If you are a student of history, as I am, or a mythologist as well. Mythologist meaning, mythology not meaning things that are untrue, but stories that have been passed down. And who did those better than the oracles, the, you know, the feminine carriers, the womb carriers, the womb, the creators, you know, the holders, the mothers. So these conversations are being rehabbed now. The creation stories of certain races, of all the races, and how they were created, under what conditions, both from the perspective of the guardian races, which many refer to as the Anunnaki, that gene spliced humans with various species of animal kingdom, and what diversions of that, you know, took place, down to a more practical narrative of where racism came from. And again, you know, everything is a fractal. So you deal with issues of racism, for instance, and then colorism within that. And it connects to sexism. It connects to the way that many males got off track with betraying their you know, physical creators, the mothers, the womb carriers, how they betrayed them, and then went into a karmic situation of being betrayed by their creations, their sons, their daughters, the daughters that they raped, the sons that they raped, which was really a betrayal of themselves as a Luciferian blueprint for destroying or creating havoc in the human destiny path. So I'm going to talk more about this stuff later, because I'm so excited that others are talking about it now. the way I talk about it though is different, because when people talk about it now, even still, they're just like creating links and you know, you got to put, but you know, again, we're dealing with this masculine scientific mind, which I always get so impatient with because it takes so much time. But you know, and it's so frustrating because people realize now that we're beyond that, but they realize it again only intellectually. They're not using the new methodologies for, you know, waking up. You know, we're still talking about it so much and trying to put the pieces together from a scientific context perspective. We're not, you know, we got to go through whole sciences of proving to ourselves that, you know, genetic memory is real and tapping into it, or mystic aspects. We have to have sciences of spirituality, which bores the hell out of me. But that is the retarded methodology that we have to use in order to give credence and believability, because people are so far away from things that the oracles already possess, which is our intuitive, you know, gnosis. But they won't trust the feminine to, you know, restore that, because then they'd have to submit themselves to the feminine, which they don't want to do. They'll talk all day and every day about the woman or the black woman being God, but they won't listen to her. We got all these motherfucking YouTube channels of niggas just talking, and I'm sorry, brothers, I don't mean no disrespect. I'm just getting in my hood aspect right now. Shape-shifting, switching reels, because I'm multidimensional like that. But, you know, we're going to go through a whole nother decade of listening. And I love them. I watch these motherfucking YouTube videos just like everybody else, because I'm trained with, you know, a classical mind of over-intellectualism. I told y'all before, I got 3 motherfucking degrees. And, you know, I'm not super street smart, but I got a background where, you know, I know how to learn from the cultural, you know, wisdom and knowledge. I wasn't deep in the streets, but I got context. And I got wisdom from, you know, I got generational wisdom. And I also have natural mystic proclivities that I was born with, you know, so that I could also tap into indigo, crystal, post-crystal, you know, and ancestral, you know, bridge frequencies. So anyway, I look forward to the time, which I've been told a while ago is coming really soon, when we can all get on the land. That has been what I've been talking about. Let's get on the land. But we can't do that until, so I get it, the prerequisites are what a lot of our guardian protector soldiers, you know, the brothers have been doing for us, you know, getting people ready, you know, doing a prerequisite, you know, courses to, you know, move us back, get us prepared to go into the specialization of mysticism, where we can now do things. We can, you know, once you get into that, well, you got to have the right heart, and that's all scanned for, you know, before you go into mysticism. Because again, back to what I was saying earlier, with all these lovely children of God, doing all kinds of crazy dark arts, witchcraft, you know, just dumb shit, right? Because they done learned, you know, the steps that the priests took, you know, and wrote down and created rituals and all kind of bullshit, like just abused all the gifts of these spiritual arts, which we call magic. Just laws, right? Which actually brings me to the other thing I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to just like jump around, but there's this video going around that other people are picking up on now about, I think they're called Ectopods, but it's the Brave New World. You know, we already been through the Orwellian 1984 stuff when, you know, kind of like when Trump was coming into office, it came up big again. People were reading the book, the novel over, I was teaching it. And, you know, I would always talk about, well, you know, Brave New World is next, because that goes into the whole AI, cloning, Neuralink, tech, you know, unfolding, tech period, tech coming from the archons and electron, archon, electronics, technology, architect, archon tech. It's all ethereal before it even gets to the physical three-dimensional, and it's been unfolding for thousands of years. And even before that, this is just the new iteration of it from the last time that this bitch got destroyed. Or not destroyed completely, but, you know, we've had many iterations of destruction. But our energy is recyclable, so it comes back, and it comes back in a similar consciousness to replay the whole thing. That's what the 25,000 year procession of the equinox is all about. That's why you wake up and you forget. That's why you don't remember none of your past life incarnations without having to go through a myriad of initiations to prove yourself worthy of possessing the knowledge. And then some people hijack it or hack it, like these dumb motherfuckers right now that are using the energy to cover their insecurity and their lack of real personal power on the inside, internal power that they've tried to externalize now. That's why we have a whole stupid fucking money system to begin with. Money system is stupid as fuck. It's contrived. It's something that we've created. And we can't even see our ways out of it. Motherfuckers still, they just want to pass the baton to other niggas who've already had the chance to rule, who want to just rule again because they have a deficit of internal power. This is why they abuse the mothers to begin with. Kill them. And then stole their daughters and raped them. And the sons now. Hide your kids, hide your wife and your husbands and your sons too. Because these motherfuckers are rapists in the worst sense. Not just rapists of flesh, but rapists of spirits and souls. I wasn't trying to go this deep tonight. I just wanted to introduce it. And because even if I don't have the interest to get back to it, just by opening the portals, that's what we do. Just by opening the portals, it'll be talked about. It's already being talked about, and I'm so proud of you guys for that, those of you who are doing that. But just by uttering it and having the intention, it will go in a direction that covers. Because you've had, over the years, over the decades, I've been excited many times where these topics or other topics were breached, but then they went in weird directions. They went in very patriarchal, egotistic directions. And they started telling those half-truths or truths or leaving out, you know, the voices again of the mothers, of the oracles. the Sophias, of the Mami Watas. So I am here on our technology to just put out there that these topics must be discussed, and they must be discussed in totality of their truth and balanced with the voices of the elders and the mothers and the oracles and the daughters and the sons. Everybody gets to have a voice, right? But the wisdom voice, the voice that was stolen, that imbalanced all of it, the voice that needs to be restored, that is being restored one way or the other. That's why you hearing, I'm F-U-C-K, fuck nigga free, cause I ain't gotta worry about no fuck nigga cheating. You may not like that, but guess what? That's Lilith's daughter coming back and letting you know what's up. So you can take it, I mean, it depends on where you positioning yourself, where your ego has positioned itself. You can take it standing up, lying down, light, dark, however you want it. I prefer it in a way that everyone can peacefully move into the consciousness that evolves us all, restores symmetry, harmony, symmetry, balance. So we got to go back and reclaim these memories and stories and see where we are in the reweaving of these narratives. And so Moorish history, but not just told from men, not just told from men for the purpose of reliving old college football days in the form of imperialist. I know a lot of them meant well. I know, trying to bring back the disorder and order it and steer things in the right direction. But, you know, just because you have an intention to do something right doesn't mean that it's going to turn out like that. And again, you lose yourself sometimes in the process thinking that that means the end justifies the means, but that's not true. And there needs to be listening. And even, you know, it's not always about, I mean, I'm notorious for having conversations about taking accountability. Every side, every player needs to take their accountability, because nobody's been perfect in the, you know, everybody's contributed to the downfall, and thus everybody's atonement will contribute to the rise. Atonement, I talked about that. Was that the video I didn't post? And talking about Avatar. Avatar was a very interesting story. I liked Wakanda better, but the symbols in Avatar still, they were actually an echo of Wakanda. We had a lot of water symbolism, which is a really important one right about now. Again, it coincides with the mother, Mom, Yemoya, and the Great Mother of the water and father. But I saw this film, this movie, a film on Amazon called The Nanny. I stumbled across it, just bored, you know, trying to watch something last couple nights, and oh my God, it's so deep about this woman from Senegal, and it has these scenes. It's like a I don't really watch thrillers, you know, supernatural thrillers, but I don't know, somehow I watched this, and it's portals that that winter solstice energy. But anyway, it was some deep scenes where she was taken underwater. Water was a huge symbol, motif in the film, but she was taken underwater by another mermaid, a mermaid, you know, that represented Mami Wata. As a matter of fact, one of the characters who was considered to be like a reader, elder female, spoke to her. An American elder female spoke to her about, literally about Mami Wata or Yemaya. And she was having all these supernatural, the Senegalese young woman, beautiful, beautiful actress, was having this, kept having these paranormal experiences about her son dying, actually. It could be analyzed in so many ways. But anyway, so she was like blanking out, you know, in water. And in one of the scenes, she gets pulled under the water, or not so much pulled, but comforted by this mermaid, you know, black mermaid spirit that is definitely, you know, Mami Wata or Yemaya. And so, you know, that theme, I talked in another video about the mer people, you know, and my personal experience with friends of mine from Cameroon, who told me a story decades ago about the aquatic people, the nomos. They didn't call them that, but you know, the Dogon referred to the nomos. But these people who live under the water, and they would come out every year and talk to the chief and give the chief instructions for the village. But you know, I met some more of these mermaids. I met their spirits too. And well, okay, so then in Wakanda, so in Avatar, they're dealing with the Pacific Islanders. They're using that group to represent the mer people and their relationship with the whales, and you know, so on and so forth, to contrast the jungle tribes that were their cousins. So they migrate to the one family of, what's his name, Sully. I'm not big on the characters in Avatar. It's been so long since that first one. But yeah, so they, you know, spoiler alert, they end up with this tribe that are aquatic. It's an aquatic tribe. So, and then of course the theme in Wakanda was just amazing. I loved, because I'm very, you know, I have a lot of indigenous I mean, many of us know that that's what we are primarily. Well, just strongly because we're on this land, right? So whatever land you standing on and you fed by, you know, that becomes your parent land, you know, surrogate or whatever. But and then the Moors again have history. America, you know, many of us already know this stuff, but I'm just kind of pointing it out as reference to the you know, the power of the grids and how it interacts with the DNA of the ancestors that are flowing through your veins. So, but in Wakanda, you know, it was Quetzalcoatl and them who I've had personal introductions to, and having, again, traveled the lands as well as in my DNA. But, you know, going to Tikal and Flores, Guatemala, maybe 20 years ago, I literally, you know, convened with those ancestors and met Quetzalcoatl personally. And many other of the elders. So when I saw that whole, you know, illustration in Wakanda, it just, I mean, Wakanda is enough in and of itself, was enough. I mean, the African setting was enough to just make you ooh and ah and just, flood you with genetic and cellular memory. But also, when they added this component to it, I was just like, whoa. It was like double for me and my ancestry, and there's just, there's so much other. Those are just two of many. But those are very two pivotal, fundamental cultural lineages and histories that are pivotal to us waking up to, something really, really ancient within ourselves. And when you're dealing with the Americas, remember you're also dealing with a lot of Moorish history. So, which is important to talk about. And again, it helps you understand what's been going on with the whole race thing from a deeper level than just political, than just from, modern racism. It's way deeper. So anyway, lot. We're at the 1 hour point, so Mark, I'm gonna cut it. But the ectopods were something that I wanted to talk about, that I'm gonna talk about in the future. How they're promoting the whole Brave New World, Aldous Huxley prophecy of growing babies, and I think Russell, what's his name? Not Russell Simmons. What is his name? Russell Brand had, he actually just reiterated it from someone else who posted, I can't remember the guy's name, who posted a video on this, I think it's a fictitious commercial for using, CRISPR, and they're calling it ectopods. I think it's based on something real, some bioengineers in Germany who are starting to promote this company of growing your babies, but Russell Brand in his recent video pointed to the fact that also there, it was the first time I kind of heard about it, but I know the history of all this kind of stuff, but he was talking about what are they called? Some kind of plastics that they have been distributing through what means, I can't recall, but basically we've been bombarded with all these, what are they called? PHLATESs. I forgot how you say that, but supposedly they're making us sterile, and we've gotten them from the chemtrails maybe, or something in the atmosphere that's reducing the sterility of, and this goes back to that other movie. What was it called? Children of God or something, like Children of something. That was the movie I saw. I remember I saw it in the movie theater, like, again, maybe 10 years plus. And it was, it took place in London, I believe, or Britain, where everybody was sterile. And then this young black girl had the first baby, had a baby when people couldn't have babies. So everybody was like really protecting her and trying to understand like how she was able to, she became an anomaly in this futuristic sterilized civilization, which is crazy because that's where we're headed to now, especially after this 2020 thing where they've, literally given us all kinds of stuff, and they're still trying to do that. So that's something that we need to talk about real soon, and actually, and people are talking about it, but it actually also goes into my conversations about cloning, which I don't think anybody really has been able to understand from the perspective that I've been trying to tell it. But it makes total sense to me now. Not makes total sense to me now, but I see the way they're trying to, in a modern sense, like tie it all together. Because, in the past we got the prophecies in us, right? And we've read them, those of us who are who have gone the intellectual route of acquiring knowledge and watching for things you know, to happen politically, but paying attention to the intellectual prophets as well as the, you know, religious or, you know, philosophical or spiritual prophets, as well as the everyday people and the downloads that we ourselves get. And, you know, just putting that all together to see how this narrative is playing out or going to play out or is unfolding. And so, you know, all those downloads over the years and decades that I've gotten about clones. And I did a video, I think it was the last video I did. I hope it wasn't the one where, again, I did not post, but the video where I talked about, you know, me asking myself at some point. And you know, I was always kind of like, I don't really want to tell that because it makes me sound really crazy and, you know, kind of makes me suspect because a lot of us are double agents, right? But, you know, like having asked myself after having all those dreams and downloads decades ago about the cloning stuff, asking myself, you know, I think and watching, you know what it was? It was these recent viewings of Westworld, before Westworld, what was that other one? Raised by Wolves, but before that it was I can't remember all these other, but y'all remember these themes of cloning and artificial intelligence that we've been, you know, that have been slowly introduced to us via these TV shows and movies. And again, my dreams were, at least that last dream, that last real wild dream I had, you know, that was not a dream, it's probably future, whatever, of telling my sister that we were being cloned. But it's deeper than that. Like, again, I'm starting to get dizzy and tired now because we're over an hour. But I'll try to write it down and remember to talk about it in another video, the next video. But it was just like asking oneself, you know, are you a clone? Am I a clone? And I really think that this process of social media, from MySpace, as far back as MySpace, to Facebook, to all these other platforms now that have been taking in all of our information, and what do they call it, like, you know, facial recognition, sound. You know, I don't even have Siri on my fucking phone, or I haven't activated her, or whatever, but they still always taking my voice. You know, I know they listen, China, all this, they listen to it. They got you all mapped up in so many different ways that it's so easy to clone you, because they've already got everything they would ever need to reproduce you, character-wise and individual-wise. And so with the technology they have to actually put it together, it's a wrap. It's a fucking wrap. Like, they have so many different elements that make it so easy to replicate. And, you know, it's a few possibilities that I've looked at. I mean, for those of us who are ascending and those of us who are in integrity with our spiritual evolution and path, you know, we know that we're not going to be, you know, damned into this 2D, you know, and, you know, negative 2D. They're still trying to, you know, capture our essence in a digital way to continue with, you know, running their show. And because the antichristic, as I always say, they can't really create anything on their own. Lucifer couldn't create anything on its own. It's all a replication. That's why I get on so much. You guys hear me talk about people stealing shit from you, stealing your essence through copyright infringement, through plagiarism. It's the same energy. It's the same energy when people take from you and try to replicate and steal your persona. When they, you know, go on your, like, it's representative at this low level now with our social media, with our channels, with our messages, whatever. And you got people stealing people's identification, or stealing people's pages, or stealing people's information, just their message, and trying to replicate it so that they can aggrandize what? Their fucking egos. Because again, they're so fucking insecure. They're so fucking, lost and self-loathing, and that they lack the ability to create. Sterile mentally, sterile spiritually. Sterile creatively is not just a sexual thing. This is happening on multiple levels. So when people, need to be validated in their physical, ego construct, that they've got to like fish and take from other people, the same insecurity they have about having to do whatever it takes to get money so they can survive, because they're so insecure without having that, or they're so insecure with believing that they have to, and that part of it is why many of us come to try to dismantle that whole system from the inside out, not from the outside in. Some do it from the outside in, but many of us, have come to do it from the inside out. We have to create it first, a new template. Like that's why I say fuck the money system. And those of you motherfuckers who still want to like a lot of us are so sick of that, but we don't have like a lot of, the collective consciousness can't quantum imagine a way out of that, so it's still being held on to because we can't fathom how we have, and this shit is only the Medicis. I mean, we had coinage back then, but the Medicis are the ones that brought it to this level. I mean, no, as an indigenous person, I've always known from the time I came to this planet, but like recently, over, since I've been an adult, and this whole homeless thing and homelessness and all this shit, it's like, we know that there's, there's no way that there should ever be a threat of survival, that is tied into work, like nobody should have to work to live on the planet, like, like what I always say, working under threat of survival. And like real estate, oh my God, I've always hated the concept of real estate, because yeah, what the fuck do you mean? Like everybody has a right to live, without having to be plugged into a system. That was our first matrix right there. Everybody knows that, with taxes and all kinds of shit. Like you gotta pay the fucking, emperor to fucking exist on the planet. You can't even go live off grid without, being persecuted. And if you're not in their system, if you're not doing it, and then we do it to each other. We persecute those who don't, because we are too, self-loathing in our own sellout capacity. Everybody else got to do it like us, or, we ostracize them from that normality again. We call them crazy, and we, get in a mindset of saying that they don't deserve any human rights because they won't play the game the way that we've sold ourselves into playing it. It's just, but it's all gonna fall. It's all falling right now. We've already created the timeline splits. It's going on 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years now, and it's going to continue to happen where, we get woke and then they jolt us and then we fall back into a stupor, or we go into a new direction of bullshit, based on their fear tactics. That's why we have to understand that fear itself, fear is what abducts us into the false reality and the matrix, and how we get stuck and stay there. So anyway, it's just so much. What is this? Energy harvesters, the vamps. Yeah, I talked about them already. But there's so many beautiful things as usual that's always going on at the same time. So alchemy has been the main theme, the trigger word. So just, just meditate on that. It's going to come in. You'll see it coming in different ways. The word itself probably will be sound-bited, sound-bited. But alchemy in any way. And we are looking, so the antichristic energies are going to try to use it as a negative concept. So just keep in mind that, the true alchemy is the alchemy of the soul, of the spiritual alchemy. And that is using because this is how we overcome. So again, with all these energy harvesters and weak motherfuckers who've been using, dark magic and energy in ignorance and insecurity and fear to try to rape, others, especially, benevolent beings. Just realize that we're going to take that energy. And what have I been, honey? I was talking about these exorcisms that are about to be trendy. I've been talking about demonic forces for the last 2 years. And then, again, opening the portals for other people to feel comfortable talking about this demonic possession. Again, going back to, I told y'all, since the Gulf of Aden, that's the hallmark for remembering when a lot of these entities flooded in through this portal over there in near, the Middle East, the Middle East, or the Gulf. What is it, like Iraq, when they was opening those portals, and Antarctica, and trying to doing a whole new ritual work of, bringing in these demons, CERN, and their little rituals and shit. So it's already on and popping. We got to now step our game up with our alchemy, and those of us who've already been initiated in past lives and who have been initiated in this life, to see that energy, take it in, and not fight it, not play that game, but take it in and restructure it, because it's the same energy. We're dealing with polarities. And as an alchemist, you don't, I even do too much judging, but it's okay, because I'm good with that too. But we're taking this energy in, especially learning from the mothers and the oracles. We're taking this energy in because it all comes from the same source. Okay, and it's just like a mother who has a kid who's problems, a bad kid, she still loves that child, and you don't, like, some people talk about how, abortion, even in that sense, is, as a concept, is the flushing of something that is not, properly created or conceived. And so it doesn't have the energy and the support it needs according to the judgment of the mother who's ushering that life in. And it's nobody else's fucking, because if her mind and body and alignment would be right if the others outside of her were, women wouldn't want to just be having abortions just to be, it's something imbalanced. And, in that, who wants a world full of babies that, are coming through the portal of an unaligned, even if they survive it and overcome and compensate, you're still bringing energies on into the reality that are going to create future problems, And so ideally, I don't necessarily believe in the, like the goodness. It's not like abortion is good, but I'm saying, like I always say, until the conditions for raising, whether it's literal children or energetic, creations, is, supported by the whole system, then you know, is primarily the choice of the creators. You know, and as much as the men contribute, you know, the primary creator is, you know, and nurturer is the mother. So sorry y'all don't like that. That's another conversation we're gonna have to get to and make it real. We was talking parthenogenesis and ovism 20 years ago, and niggas didn't want to agree to that because of their egos. They wanted to believe, because it's been programmed to them, that their sperm somehow has a larger influence on creation. That's because they came up in the rape culture that their fathers taught them. And when I say fathers, I'm talking thousands of years ago, because it became a system of rape. And that's why you see the rage of young women now turning into this lillith type energy, because women and girls, especially young girls, have been raped. It's been a rape process, because they weren't gonna be fucking with the crones. They weren't gonna be fucking with the mothers. They've been. That's why you have older women, you know, mostly non-melanated, who got the nerve and the privilege to rage at that age and divorce their husbands and turn them gay. And I mean, I'm sorry, I know I'm going into political parts that people don't, you know, that get a little sensitive, but you know, it's getting too late for people not to be stepping up people's feelings at this point, because that's the truth. The truth is that this system of patriarchy cannot be tiptoed around and ignored. And you don't even hear a lot of voices, like I said, on the internet, on YouTube. You don't even hear a lot. And because women, you know, a lot of the mothers and the oracles are smart enough not to be talking. I'm the one that's like got too much masculine energy on me, you know. I'm the one that's, you know, walking on the side of the, what they call it, my indigenous Native American, I can't remember what they call it, but you know, I'm not, and no, that's not saying that I'm bisexual or gay or anything like that, people. That's not what I'm talking about. So don't go getting it twisted. I'm not coming out of no closet, because I ain't in no closet. I'm saying, I've talked about it in another video, like when we get past all this bullshit, the LGBT rainbow community, or false rainbow or inverted rainbow community that's based on lust and sexualization, once we get over that and we get to the real energy of it, again, we come from, you know, a multisex template, you know, like earthworms. Earthworms ain't no fucking, you know, aberrant life forms. So all y'all homophobic people, and again, I'm not supporting, you know, homosexuality or all this other stuff. I'm not supporting it, so don't get it twisted and don't make me your mouthpiece. I'm not in hatred of anybody. I just think it's all twisted, the way that it's being operated, from the discrimination to the, you know, movement, political movement and sexualization movement of the energy of, you know, Hyperboreans. So, you know, it happens inside first, and it's a progressive movement of balancing masculine and feminine. But for these, you know, for our primate, you know, tribes, species that are stuck in, you know, preserving the human cultural evolution of the past, and not realizing that we are evolving toward something that transcends the polarity of male female. So sorry to tell y'all can hate me if you want, turn me off now, but y'all be stealing and talking the same shit in another 5 years. That's why I'm glad they got YouTube now. But I don't know, they'll probably destroy my YouTube channel like they did all my shit that I wrote on MySpace and Facebook. They just take your shit and get rid of it. But again, I'm on a path where I'm not supposed to own this stuff in my I know who the fuck I am. So I don't have to, you know, my ego does not have to buy into needing credit for it. I already know, and I got enough witnesses around me to know that I've been talking about this stuff for a very long time. And my ego doesn't need it to be, need itself, need to validate itself, you know, at that level. Oh my God, am I really at 1 hour and 30 minutes? I've just been rambling. I needed to talk about this. Like I said, I did a tape. And because a lot of these energies are lifting, you know, like I said, these motherfuckers who've been attacking those of us who know who we are and know what we do. And we've been having to circumnavigate, you know, in an alchemical way without using our energy to fight and destroy, you know, but by going deeper inside and empathizing and understanding, just like their, you know, their children who are lost and who, you know, have been ignorant and causing a lot of havoc, but still, you know, it's not about, you know, engaging a tantruming infant, you know, or toddler. It's about letting them move through the process where they can learn themselves, you know, and make a choice after they see the truth of how things operate. They can make a choice to ascend, repent, confess and atone and ascend, or to, you know, devolve and get their names written out of the book of life. So anyway, ooh, honey. Also, the galactic. There's lots going on in the galactic, at the galactic core, and within the solar. We had solar flares the other day. That's where a lot of this stuff is happening, from solar flares, the Earth. I wouldn't be surprised. Matter of fact, there was an earthquake in San Francisco when I was out of town. I went up north a couple weeks ago, and traveled through Oregon and Washington. And I think right after I came back, there was an earthquake that was triggered in some part of San Francisco or the Bay Area. So I wouldn't be surprised if volcanoes are happening. I haven't checked that. But yeah, there's lots going on. So again, this is happening at the galactic core. Our DNA is being incubated, in so many words, and a lot of our new gifts, you know, are coming into online and activated. Okay, so pay attention to a lot of the galactic and geological events that are occurring, and in reference to and context with your development, our development, because it's a lot going on. Orion, the constellation, a lot going on there, just a lot. So tune in, work on your heart as always, and yeah, okay. Ooh, honey, 1 hour 33. My gosh. All right, guys, so I'm gonna wrap it up, call it a night. Talk to you again really soon, and until then, take care. Peace.